Mother, I will never leave you alone, but mother says that it is better for them to stay like this. If both of them leave together, these people will not let us leave the village. And then at midnight I came out of there, and for the first time I was traveling so long, I had reached another city. I was standing in front of this house. I would have grown up in a few days. I was standing outside the door. I did not understand what to say to them. I was about to go inside. Only then the door opened and a woman came out, and when she saw me, she said, "You people are also very lazy. Why did you come late for so many days?" And where is Farzana herself? She was my aunt. Amma had shown everyone's pictures. She must have misunderstood me or thought she was someone else. I quietly followed her into the house, and I was made to stay in a small room, and she said, "You have an hour, come home later, you have a lot of work to do at home. First, you people take 2 or 3 months' salary in advance, and you people do not know how to work." I didn't say anything. I was very worried about my mother, and my heart was also very nervous. Even in the cold, I was sweating. I didn't even have a phone to contact my mother, but my mother had said that it is very important for you to leave this village. I don't know what the reason was, and why did Chaudhry get so angry with my mother. My mother said that these people are cannibals, they eat humans. He also ate your father. I had never mentioned anything to her for so many years. Then why did my mother tell me everything when she suddenly came? There was one thought after another, and the more I thought, the more confused I became. I came inside the house where a little girl was playing. She was very cute. My cousin was my maternal uncle's daughter, and I couldn't tell anyone what I looked like and started working quietly. I used to work morning and evening, and still no one knew who I was, and I was considered someone. I had been working for a month. Everyone in the house spoke well of me. My uncles used to call me son, and I used to look at their faces for a long time. I wanted to talk to my mother when one day I was afraid and asked my mother, whom she called Begum Sahiba, to let me call her home. She kept staring at me for a long time and said, "I understand the actions of girls like you. Your parents have put a responsibility on me. If you give me the phone and run away with someone, our lives will not be spared. I don't understand. Your father is black. Your mother is black. Then who have you run away with? You don't seem like a maid's daughter to me." I was silent. My mother said, "Come on, I want our work from your parents." And my younger mother also often comes to the house and says, "Get me a maid from wherever you have called this girl." This girl doesn't say a word even after telling her father, and she also does her work as if it were her own house. As the days passed, my worries were increasing. One day, I was sitting and crying. When my uncle's son came, he had finished his studies. He asked me, "What are you doing sitting here?" I said, "Nothing, Zishan Bai. I was just missing my mother." He said, "Don't take my mother's name. I never had any trouble with her." One day, he asked me to make tea. I came back to the kitchen by chance. She was standing with her cup of tea that I was supposed to give her. I have been thinking for so many days, where is the mother? Where is the daughter? I don't understand anything. I started crying again. I told him, "Brother, please, I have to talk to my mother. Let me talk to her." Zishan Bai would get angry and say, "Girl, be a worker. Stay a worker. Don't call me brother from now on. Am I your cousin? And even if I am, I don't feel like a brother. Don't worry. Your mother is perfectly fine. I have met her many times, and I was afraid that if I say anything, the truth might come out. Then, As I was leaving, he turned around and said, "I can talk to you on one condition." I said, "What would they say?" "First talk to your mother, then when the time comes I will tell you my condition." I talked to my mother and told her everything. My mother said she came very soon and I quietly went to my room. For the first time in so many days I slept peacefully. What happened with my mother? My life had become a mystery. My studies, my mother, my life, everything was shattered. I did not understand when and what would happen, and the next morning my mother grabbed me by the hair asking what I was doing standing next to my son at night. I said I was talking to my mother, and for the first time in so many months Mamani had hit me and said, "I will call your mother, take her from here." I grabbed her feet, said, "Bari Begum Sahib, it was a mistake. Don't do this after today. If I go to my mother, then those people will kill me." And then she would go inside the room thinking something. My uncle had 2 sons and a daughter who was still young. I was very close to her. One day she was studying. I started teaching her. Zishan, my uncle's son, was looking at me in surprise. He said, "You are a working girl. How much have you studied?" I said, "I had given my matriculation exam. And then my mother sent me here." He said, "Where is your village? By the way, I know which village you are from." I quickly got up from there. Zishan brought me a phone that evening, through which I used to talk to my mother. I was not used to living without my mother. It was 5 months before I came here. I thought that I would become a working girl. Every time my mother would console me, and the family misinterpreted this as me talking to a boy. No one knew the truth, but I had noticed one thing. Zishan took care of me. Sometimes he would bring me clothes. Sometimes he would bring me food secretly from everyone. He also brought me books and said, "Study and take the private exam." I was very happy, but this happiness did not last long when after a few days my little Mamani came to pick me up and said, "Come with me today, my sister-in-law has a wedding and there is a lot of work at home." I did not want to go, but then I forgot everything and became a housewife. I went, and when the relatives came I felt my life was leaving me. The people from whom I had come here in secret had brought the wedding of my younger uncle's daughter. Mani told her to bring it, and as soon as I came out, Chowdhury's son Hamid saw me and his face turned pale, and his father asked how this girl is here. Mamani said, "You know," and Mamani said, "She is our housewife, so she will keep quiet," and I was very scared. I wanted to run away from this house. There was a strange kind of horror in her eyes. I was afraid. She said, "Don't tell everything to the family," and the real worry was for the family. She said, "Don't marry your daughter to this ignorant and bad character." When I told my mother, she said, "Don't worry, I will come in a few days. I have just sold the house and land from here." Zishan must have heard what I said, but he was spying on me all the time, looking at me from head to toe. He said, "Asa, let me tell you something." I said, "Yes, Zishan brother." He said, "Stop calling me brother. If you remember, I asked you for one condition." I said, "What?" He said, "I am thinking that if we get married, all your problems can be solved." And then my younger uncle's daughter came. She said, "Wow, yes, wow, what is the matter?" "I am having an affair with a maid." She told the whole family, and a doomsday was upon me. My uncle said to his wife, "I told you, she is a young girl, don't keep her at home. But you were seeing your own benefit. Now what will people say? You got your son married to a maid." And Zishan said, "Father, if you don't marry me to Asa, I will marry her myself." Then uncle said, "Look, your blood has turned red like your aunt's rebellion. Many years ago, My sister had broken up with Miraman and today he is speaking in the same tone. Mamani started hitting me and pushing me. I was not at fault in anything. Then Zishan held my hand. Everyone in the house, from my elder uncle to me, was present and said, "You know how long I have liked her. Ever since she could not be our maid and she is not a cute maid. I have been meeting Auntie secretly from all of you." Then he looked at me. "This is Auntie Farheen's only daughter, Asa. Like you people made her a maid." The day I saw her at home, I wanted to tell everyone, but my aunt told me that if you people found out first, you would throw her out because Asa's uncle was getting her married to his crazy son for the sake of property. And that day it was found out that the boy who had come to our house a couple of times was Zishan. My uncle started crying and held my hand and cried and said, "I have seen a glimpse of my sister many times. I thought it was my own blood, but then I thought, how can she come back? She never came even once and said, 'Brother, forgive me.' How could this happen? My only sister would have apologized to me and I would not have forgiven her. My aunt herself took me to the village and my mother cried for a long time. Both the aunts started apologizing to my mother and said, 'Forgive us, it is our fault too.' We felt that if we had a relationship outside our family, our noses would have been cut off. And then it turned out that Chaudhry was my real uncle who had killed my father and they had also taken possession of the property in my father's name. My uncle asked for Mir Arshta and the next day I got married and I came to this house as Zishan's bride. Even today everyone thinks about how life played a game. My mother says, 'Daughter, tell me once who you are.' I would never do that. All the difficulties I had seen in my life were over. My mother had also come with us to her brother's house, which used to be hers too, and it all happened because of a misunderstanding. My father and mother were friends. At the time of my death, my grandfather had married my mother and father, and everyone thought that my mother had married herself, and my uncle said, 'You took so many years to tell me one thing.' My mother said, 'It was just some compulsion. The day you pushed my husband, he swore that he would never set foot on the threshold of this house and he also stopped me. I was very happy in my life. I had only been married for a few months and my young sister used to play a game with me every day that you stand outside and I will hide inside the cupboard and then you will see the surprise.' I would laugh thinking I was an innocent child. For her happiness, I would agree to play this game and she would hide in my cupboard in front of me and say don't open the door until I tell her. But after a while, I would hear a little noise and then my Nand would say, 'Open the door now, and give me many gifts and leave.' I was very surprised that there were only clothes in my wardrobe. I tried many times to find out if there was anything in the wardrobe. One day, Nan's place got locked in the wardrobe by itself. As soon as the wardrobe door opened, the ground gave way under my feet. When someone started pulling me back by the neck, I couldn't make a sound. At that time, my mother came into the room and called me, but my voice was not coming out. When I kicked my leg in the wardrobe, which made my mother go back and disappear. As soon as she saw me, she started screaming. She was pulling me towards her and the amulet around my neck, which my mother had put around my neck since childhood, was bleeding. Then someone lifted me up and threw me down. I was very badly hurt and my mother started crying when she saw me. I had fainted. I didn't have the amulet around my neck and then my uncle was in front of me. I lost my senses and didn't recognize anyone. I told everyone that I have to go home. I have to get married. Everyone was crying because of me. I was tied up for 4 days. I wasn't eating anything. There were light circles around my eyes. In a few days my condition had become like a person who has been sick for centuries, and all I wanted to do was run away from here, and no matter how many times I tried, I was still tied up. The doctor also gave me answers, and then one day, on the advice of my uncle, he brought his foot and said that someone had sent a jinn through your younger daughter, but because of the amulet around her neck, your daughter-in-law was saved, and the girl he was giving money to was innocent. She didn't know anything. She was completely in his possession, but whoever made a mistake by being yours, he was caught because his amulet had fallen off and the string remained around his neck. And Amma said, I know everything. What is this about her uncle? The same thing had happened to her father too, but it was too late. Amma was in a bad mood, crying. That old man had helped us a lot and had brought the person who came through magic. He said he will not go like this. He wants this girl, but then I don't know how that person was imprisoned. That day Amma had told me that your uncle secretly practices magic from his friends, and this was also his work. Her own son who used to harass me was in jail. My younger uncle had refused to have a relationship and had filed a case against those people. He was harming us by joining forces with his father and son. Those people wanted me to leave my in-laws and come to them. But now both of them were in jail. All their old cases had been opened, and my uncle would not let them be released from jail under any circumstances. Our lands had been returned. Miraala kept going for a whole year, and then my husband would come to college himself, leaving me. I said I don't want to study anymore. I have to take care of the house, but my husband says he wants me to be strong. My husband supported me a lot. I was very weak, but my husband made me strong. Today I am Advocate Azizishan and I have my own identity. I am very happy in my life, and I learned one thing from my life. If you continue to fight for your life with courage and determination, never give up, then a time will come when people will recognize your position.